Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? I'm sure people will filter in over time. My name is Marilee Boylan, and I'm the Director of Employment Programs for the Strong Center for Developmental Disabilities at University of Rochester. I'm also the state coordinator of Project Search, so bringing you support and information to help you all with your jobs. So reach out anytime, let us know how we can help support you. We have two guest speakers today. So we have Laura Arrington, and she is from Starbridge. And Starbridge is a parent training and information center. So part of our survey that I received a lot of responses back, and you all had let me know that you're wanting more information on how to engage families. So how do we get families on board? Maybe they have some fears about their students getting jobs. How do we do this? And Starbridge and the Family Education and Training Information Centers are across our state. So you have a local program that you can connect with and Starbridge too. But Laura's going to tell you a little bit more about that. And we also have Holly. There are lots of new updates from Project Search National today, and she can give you some information about the national conference and some other updates that we have today. So yeah, welcome. Hope you guys are keeping warm and being safe with travel in the snow. We got some flurries here today. So I'm going to just start us off really quick and ask you all if you can talk about some of the challenges that you've had in engaging families. What have you seen? And then, Laura can maybe help connect you with some ideas and some resources and kind of go through her background about the information and training centers. What have you guys seen? Don't be shy. Have any of you struggled to get parents engaged? Are they afraid to have their kids working?
Marilee, can you hear me?
Oh, go ahead.
Yes.
Hi. Hi. Specifically, for us, we have, seems like two different type of interns that come into us, those that have, services in place and then those that do not. And, the families that have the services in place are more apt to, participate. And we are encouraging the families that do not have services in place yet for their for an intern that would qualify to reach out. Like I bridge the gap by here is the contact information, and I give them each our local ARC and then the family. It just doesn't seem like the families are not reaching out. So my next step would be to try to facilitate a meeting in a common ground, such as like our offices here at, within the hospital. So that's kind of where I am right now with the couple of families. And hopefully get them engaged
with
in
services.
The program, in the process.
Right. Yeah. Anybody else have some experiences about trying to get families engaged? So I think Laura, maybe we start with you and your presentation.
Sure.
We had a great conversation with our adult project search programs because also there's an issue with recruitment. And so we're developing a partnership with Starbridge, and we're going to get more information out to families directly about project search. So there's lots of ways that we can collaborate. Go ahead, Laura.
Okay, I am going to just realized I probably have like all my emails open. So before I share my screen, I should probably shut that down. Let me share my screen. And let's see. Okay, well, there's my very busy schedule. And here we go. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I so appreciate it. It was great yesterday. I'm going to try to stay on track, not talk too much. I'm a talker. I love to talk, but I will try to tamp that down. I'm going to share with you about Starbridge. We are located in Rochester, New York, but I'm going to tell you about how our reach is not only local, but far-reaching. But the focus of Starbridge is we really want to partner with individuals and their families or people who support them, because we want people to have success in education, employment, and healthy living. Our website is www.starbridgeinc.org. Our main number, 585-546-1700. Some of the things we do is we touch more than 11,000 lives each year. We focus mainly on the greater Rochester and Finger Lakes region in New York, but I'm also going to tell you how it goes even further than that. Some of our focus is special education navigation in Monroe County. If you're familiar with the Rochester area and in surrounding, it is some employment services. If people have self-direction, we do some fiscal intermediary. We offer workshops and webinars, as well as ComHab, just to name a few of the things that we do. So at Starbridge, we have several grants, but the focus that really starts to bring people in is one, what's called a parent training information grant. And that is out of the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Special Education Programs. We love acronyms, so we call it OSEP. So there is at least one Parent Training Information Center in every single state. So if you have a friend in Colorado or California, you can direct them to that. In New York State, we have two. So Starbridge holds the grant for all of New York State except Long Island, and I'm going to tell you about who services that. We also have a grant from OPWDD, Office of People with Developmental Disabilities. So how do we serve families? Well, it's a big area to cover. So we use subcontractors across the state. So we have people in the North Country, in the Capital Region, and we also have people in Western New York. And the reason why we do that is while the state of New York within special education pretty much has the same rules and regulations, it's good to connect families of resources in their area. So for example, if you are in the North Country and you are up in St. Lawrence County, the resources and the community resources are going to be very different than they would be in Monroe County. And we even see the differences between Monroe County and Wayne County, and they have a knowledge of school personnel and they may have working relationships. So that's why we cover the state with subcontractors. And then I told you New York State has two PTICs, Parent Training Information Centers, and the people who serve all of New York City and Long Island are called Include New York. And we work closely with them, but there's just a vast amount of people to cover. And within education, there are some slight differences from New York City than there are from the rest of the state. So we definitely refer families to them. So here at Starbridge, our focus is mostly on 11 counties. And they are right there between Western New York, and we also have someone who serves Central New York. So our focus is to cover those counties. We want to support families, infants, toddlers, youth, so pretty much birth to youth. And our federal grant goes up to 26 years of age, but also within OPWDD, we can help them if they have that service. We can help them go beyond that. And we want them to participate effectively with their child's education or within their community. What we say, if you want to yell and scream at your school district, we might not be a good fit, but if you want to work with them, we want to help you. So how do you get these great services? Well, you can get on our website, and if you click the Contact Us button, a form will come up, and within that form, you can fill out your information, or you can give us a call on our intake line, 585-224-7359, and you will talk to our fabulous intake specialist. Her name is Carrie Powers, and she's wonderful. And then she's going to refer that family or that person or that professional to one of our 6. And yes, I told you we cover 11 counties. We only have 6 of our family education specialists. And we like to say that as opposed to advocate, because we feel like advocate sounds like you're going to go in and beat people up. And we really are about building bridges, and we are truly an empowerment model. So you can't be court ordered to work with us. We don't make cold calls to families. So if you are a professional and you say, hey, I think this family needs help, you can call in and say, can I set up a time to talk that the family can be on the phone and one of your family education specialists can be on the phone, or you can fill it out on their behalf, but please put your contact information, because what happens is families are overwhelmed. People make a referral to us, we give them a call, and about 90% of those people go, I have no idea why you're calling me. And we might go, is it education? Is it this? And again, we want to be with them in the moment and help and support them. So it's always a good idea you can reach out to us as a professional. You can ask us questions as a professional. We're always happy to talk to you, but we're going to need to pull the family in. So why do people call us? Especially for our grants they might have questions about special education, their child struggling in school, they just need help. Maybe their child's being bullied. Their child might have got suspended. Our biggest one is, can they do that? And I think for all of you is, what is going to happen when my child leaves school, or how do we get them to that point? What skills do they need? What pathway are they taking? So those are the types of things that we really want to focus in and help families, because what we know is New York State is not doing very well in transition services. So we want to help the family and we want to help the school. All of our trainings are free for families and for professionals. I'm doing one today at 12 o'clock on IEP The Essentials. You can sign up for any of these, they're free. And this is just a list of some of the things that we do, but I'm kind of focusing in on this group of transition. Now we can do transition from year to year, which is always good, but also what we call the big transition with a capital T, life after high school. And what does that look like? And pathways to graduating or leaving school. And how do we help families and schools? What do they need to exit school? Are they in a life skills program? Are they NYSERDA path? Are they on a Regents path? Are they on a local diploma path? How do we get there? One of the things we do is we offer what's called a Creating a Life series that will be offered in April. It is for students who have OPWDD. So we're looking for those NODs because that's supported by OPWDD, that program. And it is, I believe it's 5 weeks, 1 night a week. Sometimes we do it online. This time in April, we'll do it in person. But looking at where will students and their families do it alongside them, live, earn, and spend their free time. And what do they want to do? And allowing them that vision of what's next. Because I'm going to tell you, I have a 26-year-old son with autism. And when he aged out of school, and I do this job, right? I've been doing this for 16 years. I literally wanted to run up and down the hall screaming, going, oh my gosh, school ends and it's you, it's all you. And I don't think families realize that you've always had the comfort of school, and then school does end. It will end and they will be there. And you then have to pick up and figure out the next steps. So your role is so important and key to a lot of families.
So
We have
Laura,
oh yeah.
Sorry, quick question. So did I understand correctly? So you could do a presentation for any of these folks' teams. Like you could do a team presentation, or if they wanted to do like a presentation for a group of their families,
Oh,
you could do
yes.
that too, like either or.
Absolutely. And it was interesting, and I can't remember, I think I wrote down Lisa, who said some of the families needing services in place. And is it right to assume that you're talking about maybe getting through that OPWDD portion of having that support? It's a big gap, isn't it? And we have been partnering with OPWDD to start to offer kind of those front door sessions on Zoom. We offered one in the fall. We're doing it 2 times a year. I'm trying to push for 3 or 4 times a year of getting the word out to families of what it is, the benefit, but it's a daunting process. It is truly a daunting process. And for families, sometimes you're overwhelmed with paperwork. So you're right, getting them in touch with some of the ARCs or even like person-centered services and having people help them through that. Also, getting the word out to schools about helping families through this and through the paperwork process, getting the evaluations you need, getting, that full scale IQ, getting that adaptive behavior, and ensuring that you have those evaluation pieces to then move to the next step, because that's key in a lot of programs. What do we say? You go from entitlement from school to then eligibility. So how do we help them get eligible for these services? Because school ends and people don't come knocking on your door and saying, here you go, here you go. So we're always looking at how can we get the word out to families? How can we present this information? And if you could come to an online, get through that front door, it's kind of a combo package, right? It's not one more thing. Families might have transportation issues. They might have obviously, if you're going through a PWDD, you have someone who probably meets those qualifications. So you may not be able to just easily leave and go somewhere and get this information. So we want to be able to find many ways to
And
reach
Laura,
families.
in your experience, it's easier for families to get services while they're still in school because they have access to evaluations and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Much more difficult after they leave school.
It's challenging because again, you're going to have to then contact the school. They're going to have to get the paperwork where you can say, can you send home? And we want, all of John's info. We want them in their junior or senior year to get that updated psych eval, the updated adaptive behavior that OPWDD is going to need to qualify them for those services. And we want reminders for the school, because we want to work with them to say, this is so important. When people ask this, they're not asking it to be annoying. They're asking it because they need it after they leave school. They're going to have to pay for it.
Right.
100% correct. We have great resource pages, different topics, transition from high school, look what happens to just be on top, special education and plain language. We have tip sheets for families, so you can search in there. And then if you're interested, workshops and webinars, you can go to documents, links, newsletters, and then we also have videos on things. Again, Marilee, we were talking yesterday about let's do a webinar on Project Search. Let's get that out to families. I wrote an email. We have a newsletter called Bridges. I sent an email to our editor and said, could we highlight this program and get the word out? Could we, record something quickly for families to share? How do we get the word out and how can we help you? Because that helps us to help families and connect them. That's what we should be doing. Just really quickly, we're seeing a lot of different things. You can see a lot of numbers. People are calling us, a lot of suspensions, increased anxiety, and families with mental health issues. And those can be barriers. those can be barriers to getting your child to those programs or getting in touch with things. If parents are struggling, they may struggle to then, get in contact with you. It may feel like climbing a mountain to transition. I was scared, is scary. And there's huge teacher shortages. So, are we telling, new staff every single year what's going on about these projects? So we see what's going on, and the trust and knowing you're scared. You have a child with some type of developmental disability. Tell me they're in good hands and that they're safe. We do work with over 100 school districts. The majority of the people that we work with last year, it's even increased this year, have a child diagnosed somewhere on the autism spectrum. That educational classification of other health impairment, it's kind of a catch-all, but it could be a health issue, it could be ADHD, it could be anxiety. We're seeing anxiety and developmental issues together. And the largest school district that we work with, 18% of our work is done within the Rochester City School District. And what can you do and what do we do? Try to help support their hopes and dreams, because I think when you have a child with a developmental disability, you may feel that that's taken away from you. So how do we help you dream and think about the future? No one wants a life sitting at home on a couch. So what does healthy, happy, and productive look like? And it's about being patient. This is hard. It's you need to slow down, but it also goes fast. But people need time to work through things as well. And we want to use opportunities to strengthen trust. I think yesterday, they were talking about, there was a connection of a parent finally got to talk to another parent whose child went through Project Search, and how helpful that was. And that's a really great way to strengthen trust with families. And also educating other professionals to rethink. So sometimes, it's hard in schools. There's shortages, and we understand that. But as districts, we also have to present all information to families so that they can make an informed choice, as well as that individual. So schools don't get a right to not give parents all the information they need to even get access to your program. So how can we help them rethink this and know that it might be some work in the forefront, but in the long run, it's definitely the way to go. And ask questions and be curious with people. I'm trying to, I think what I'll do is I'll probably stop right here of how then, once you heard about within our program or what we do, how can we help and support? Because we're always open. We want to be a collaborator and a connector. So maybe, I know yesterday we brainstormed, and I am so excited. We had talked about doing a webinar on Project Search, connecting, I'm even thinking of a short, video clip or something from a person themselves who have gone through the program and why it's important. And looking for, again, maybe even having it, and then 2 weeks later going, here's the front door session that we're offering. So how do we connect?
Laura was shocked that there weren't waiting lists for Project Search. And so what she's willing to do is help us connect directly with families who are looking to support their students to get employment and to give them some more information. So we're going to do the webinar, and then I will send out an email to everybody if you have students who are willing to maybe give short clips about what they do, then we can have some social media items ready to go where we can share amongst ourselves. But then also Laura is willing to share it with all of her parent groups and get the word out that way. Because I think we're kind of noticing that things are getting stuck where maybe the school decides who is able to do Project Search or not, rather than giving the information directly to the family and the students to decide for themselves. So. Are there some ways that you think that Laura and Starbridge and the Parent Information Training Centers can help you?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, go ahead. What's going on?
I did, we received a chat, and it says, when you do the webinar, can you please do the topic of benefits? It's one of the main deterrents.
Absolutely. Great point, because that is, people get very excited and then they go, oh, okay, I need to have OPWDD, and we want to make sure that that's infused throughout there, but also maybe a jumping off point of saying, and they can contact us, and we can, you can get a sense of, okay, do you have this? What do you need? Where is your child at? And then let's connect you to get that paperwork done. So how can we do that?
Any other ways that you think that we could collaborate? Lisa Cannon said, would love to collaborate with your program.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What a great free resource.
And just thinking about, like, for RCSD and Megan Adante, you can kind of chime in a little bit here too. We spend a lot of time presenting to the students, but honestly, we're not getting the amount of students that we would like to see for Project Search. And I don't know what it looks like, but how can we collaborate with you to get more students enrolled in Project Search?
Yeah, I think one of the things that comes to mind is they have a very robust parent advisory council, CPAC. They have monthly meetings. I would love for you to connect with I can't think of Cheryl's last name.
I did. I did that.
Oh, you did? Okay, did you go? Were you able to
I
present?
reached out to her 2 times, one through text and one through email, and I have not heard back yet. She did ask me to present. I saw her over the summer. So this is my first year in this role.
Yeah, because I'm trying to familiarize myself with the case. Because I got the because I have the file on my.
Dan Butler, are you talking to us or what's happening?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to do 2 things at the same time. My computer keeps kicking me out of the meeting.
Oh
no.
So I apologize, Megan.
You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Carry on. So anyways, she did ask me in like August, to sign up, but at the time, I'll be honest, I hadn't done it. I hadn't started the role yet. So I just didn't have enough information to be able to talk to parents. But now I do. And I have reached out to her twice. I haven't been able to set it up, but I am going to continue to do that because I do think that would be a great way to get the information out, especially to younger kids, like, kids maybe like 7th, 8th, 9th grade, so they can start making Project Search part of that transition plan. I think that would be really, really great to do that. So I am going to keep reaching out to her. Carlton, by the way, it's Cheryl Carlton.
That's it. I was like, what is Cheryl's? And what we can do is we can invite it. All of a sudden right now, there's coming up on a lot of like person-centered services is doing a virtual transition fair. I think when it starts tonight or next week, I can't remember. But Marilee, as I get those, and we kind of do this with other agencies, people just forward them and say, hey, did you get this? Because there's so many going on, it might be just a way of saying, here, let me send it out. Can somebody go and just be there to talk, especially when they're doing those types of transition fairs? So I'll try to keep, as I get stuff, I'll just pass it on. If it's nothing for you, delete it. If it's something for you, run with it. I mean, that's how I think we can share information. We have to connect families. We don't have good outcomes.
Laura,
for our students.
a big concern of families is that they're gonna lose their money.
Oh.
So especially when the kids do get, the interns do get positions, they're very worried about that. And I know the person who had this role before me, Colleen,
Mhm.
she had a contact. She told me she had a contact for somebody that was like an expert in SSDI, and I don't have that contact. I don't know where it is, but if you happen to have a person who's knowledgeable about the impact of employment on SSDI, I think that would be helpful for me when I start reaching out to prospective interns for going forward.
Thank you. No, we actually used to have a benefits advisory person in, and I think it's all in Buffalo now, but I'm going to contact our intake person. Merely, I'll email her and then send it on to you, because you're right. That's the number one concern. They do need to talk to a benefits advisory counselor. I think they're out of Buffalo right now, but to find out the impact. But they can work and they can still hang on to their funding. Yes, that is a concern, but we want to show them the positives of you can work and you can still hang on to your benefits. And what does that look like? How do you have meaningful involvement in work and still get your benefits?
I'll send you all out some information. They're right, there is a benefits planner in Buffalo, and I believe that's mainly through the Ticket to Work ticket. There are benefit planners that are the disability resource coordinators out of the workforce center. So they are across the state, not everywhere though. That's the thing. But most of the DRCs have a pretty high level of information now about benefit planning. So I can send that out to you. That's a free resource, again, through the workforce centers.
Marilee, weren't they presenters last year? At our
Yes.
in-person, right? And they were expanding their services. So yeah, they're based at, but it's kind of like me, right? I'm based in Pittsburgh, but I can consult via Zoom anywhere. And so that was my takeaway from that meeting when we met in person, was
So
that
if they,
yeah, there's a small number, but they're trying to be mighty.
right. So I'll send you the link where you can look up who your local DRC is. Nancy Farrar said, in Westchester County, I have a speaker from the Westchester Independent Living do a presentation. Yeah, so I think sometimes it depends on who has that knowledge in your community, but I can definitely at least hook you up with a DRC information. The other thing is you can have your folks go through Access VR to get benefit planning as well.
I oftentimes encourage, so I know that the benefits is a big issue, right? And then on top of it, having internet access or computer knowledge or any of those things for our families may be difficult in some areas as well. And so I often encourage it being a part of your employment planning meetings. Again, I think folks spend half an hour, maybe schedule it for an hour and have somebody there at the meeting. So, you know, if you can have it in person, or if not in person, if they're able to do a Zoom, and, you know, that person just kind of stay there for the meetings and bring them in and have those conversations that way. I think project search folks, staff, all those, we have to kind of be those conduits. We can't just say and pass the name along, right? We can't just say, oh, here's the person who does this for you and pass it along. I think we have to try to figure out creative ways to get the families and have them be there, a part of that process. And so I would encourage that. It seems to work in some places. So something to think about.
Any other pieces for Laura? I'll send you some of the benefit information, but I'll also send you some ideas for the marketing. So I'll be asking for some video clips from you all, and we can kind of share it with one another and then with Laura as well. Anything
I have
else?
to say, Marilee, it was really funny. I don't know if anybody else does this, but I do this. I set up a Google alert anytime Project Search is mentioned, I get an email and I get the article that talks about Project Search. And there's a Project Search right across the border near Toronto that is trying to recruit individuals and recruit also more internships within their host business. And they just did those little videos through Zoom that I was talking about. And it was, so the link is there right in the little article. And it was really adorable. I'll send it out because it says something like, I'm a Project Search intern. Of course I know the host business policies and procedures. And it shows them putting down like the wet mopping, you know, like the floor is wet sign. And then there's like the skills trainer there, and it says, I'm a Project Search skills trainer. And of course, I encourage our interns to take wellness classes, or like, it just kind of gives little blurbs about all the different kind of components of Project Search. So I'll forward that along as well.
Right. Thanks, Holly.
Yep.
Any other pieces for Laura?
Well, thank you for having me. I so appreciate Marilee. I look forward to working with you and all of you. And we'll be in touch. You'll be in touch. We'll come up with some dates and reach out and with some dates that work, and we'll start the process.
Thank you so much, Laura. Thanks for your partnership, and we're excited to work with you all.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye. And next up we have Holly. She's got lots of good updates for you from Project Search National. Oh, Holly, you're muted.
There we go. Marilee does have a copy of this, so she will send it out with the meeting notes. Don't worry about taking your own notes. This will get sent right to you. Okay, so we have a couple reminders to start ourselves off. First are about the trainings that are required for staff, particularly, so on-site staff, instructors and skills trainers, as well as their supervisors. Our introduction and planning 2-day training are scheduled on the member portal calendar, so they are available once a month. Carly and I present those. To be clear, you can take the first session at any month and then follow it up at any other month, so you don't have to take them back to back. So if you have time next week and you want to spend some time with Carly and I, and then, you know, you're not available until March again, that's completely okay. All right. So I want to be clear about that. You don't have to take it all at once, all at the same month. But they are in the member portal calendar. You can look at all of them. They are scheduled out through December. So, you know, take a look, figure out when is the best time for you to take them, and register yourselves. The February fundamentals. So we offer the fundamentals, which are also a required course for the instructor, skills trainers, and their supervisors. We offer those in October, February, and June. So the February ones are posted. They are scheduled. They are twice a week throughout the month of February. Most of them are on Tuesdays, Thursdays. There are a couple that are not, so just pay attention to the timing. I know that they are at difficult times. Okay, so they're from 11 to 1. The reason being is that we are trying to capture as many people as we possibly can. So not everybody is on Eastern Standard Time. So if it's at 11 o'clock, for those of our folks who are in the West Coast, you know, that's 8 a.m. For the people who are in Hawaii, it's 7 a.m. So we just it's our best time that we can get that done. I'm going to be honest, you know, by February, you should be able to leave your interns for 2 hours, right? That's the reality. So by February, they should be able, and probably lunchtime is in there. So it's like an hour and a half. So they should be able to be alone so that folks can have the opportunity to train. Again, you don't have to take them in any specific order. If you can't get to all of them in February, please feel free to take them in June again if you're available. So you can watch some in February, some in June, and you'll be completed. Again, you register for those through the member portal. Our next thing that is kind of high on the agenda here is our employment outcomes. So if you had graduation or an end of the year celebration in May, your outcomes are due February 29th. If you had graduation or an end of the year celebration in June, they are due March 31st. And please remember that it is the person who's assigned in your member portal as the intern data entry coordinator, the IDEC, intern data entry coordinator, who puts in this information. In many cases, that is the instructor, but the instructor may not know who's gotten a job since the end of the program year. So there may need to be some coordination amongst the parties, reaching out to your CRP, that job developer, whoever's working with them.
Did
yep.
you say that there needs to be, the best case is 2 people on that data?
100%. Yes,
Enroll,
we
right?
always want to see 2 people in there. I'm going to be honest. People started hearing me say that, and now they put the same person in there twice. That doesn't count. Okay. So Lisa, RBC, I'm just looking at your name right now. And so not that you're doing this, but there's a lot of places that'll say Lisa and Lisa. And it's like, nope. It needs to be Lisa and somebody else, right? So it doesn't count if
Really?
you have just 2 names in there. So
Got you. I'll double check because I don't remember.
no,
seeing
you
that.
don't. You're just the name that was right in front of my face. So sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, and reason being is that, you know, if something happens, like
100%.
if
Yes.
somebody leaves or something happens, then you have somebody else that knows the system and can enter. There's been some,
Mhm.
Nationally, there's been some people who, maybe something happened to the person who was in charge of the data, and then there's a lot of panic that happens afterwards. So, I mean,
Right.
just like a nonprofit, if you have somebody in a bank account, have 2 people in the bank account, just makes it easier.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great way to think about it. Like, you know, the and, right? The and name is really important. That's a really important word when it comes to bank accounts. So that's a nice analogy, Marilee. The other thing is what I've been noticing in some member portal sites is that you might have the folks who are employed and you have that employment in there, but you don't have unemployment listed. So it looks like the outcome is just blank. So if you know that someone is still unemployed, we still need you to put that information in there. There is a section for that. So that at least tells us some more information about the cohorts, right? So please go in and double check and make sure that each person has an entry under employment, whether that is employed and their new information, also update it. So if somebody got a job in June and 9 months later, maybe they're already making more money, maybe they've increased their hours, please go in there and update that information as well. Remember, this is how we measure for the Employment Outcome Awards at the conference. So you want to make sure that that again is up to date. And these are the drop dead dates, right? So if you go in there on March 1st and your due date was February 29th, it's not going to count, right? So we pull that data at that time. Mary Ellen starts working on that for our conference as soon as that data comes through, and it stays. So it's just stuck in the member portal that way. All right. Now is a good time to be thinking about this as well. So we are in second internship. We're probably starting, maybe planning or thinking about job development. We all should be thinking about job development in January for sure. And maybe you're hearing some rumblings in your host business about hiring. Please remember that for project search interns to be considered completers, they have to complete 2 internships. All right, so that's the baseline, is those 2 internships. However, can they be hired while they're a part of the program? Yes. So that's a kind of big myth that exists out there. So just because someone gains employment does not mean that they have to end the program. Now, there are some caveats, right? And so here are some things to talk about at maybe your next steering committee. Again, make these decisions now instead of being in kind of panic mode, right? So we get these kind of questions every once in a while. I get these questions a lot come March, you know, and people are like, oh, we don't know what to do, right? Talk about it now. It's your January or February steering committee. Think about the kind of consequences, right? So first and foremost is, it's great that somebody wants to hire the intern, but are they truly ready, right? Do they have transportation? Have they had that benefits analysis done? Are mom and dad on board with them getting this job? You know, all of those types of things, have that conversation. How would that intern gaining employment impact the financials of each partner? So sometimes it does come down to making that decision. And, you know, again, you have to be open and honest with one another about it. There are programs out there in the world that say, we really need all of our interns to complete the program. That's fine. That's fair. We want you to be financially sustainable. But if you have the ability to have your intern, you know, be open to that idea, then that again is a conversation that you need to have with your steering committee. If you're a high school program, has the IEP team been consulted? Is this an option? What needs to happen? Again, for most times, Project Search interns should already have their graduation requirements, and so it shouldn't be an issue when we're talking about employment. But there are some interns that kind of, you know, sneak through, and they're using this last year as that requirement. So can they graduate? Can they obtain a job because they have that certificate, right? Also too, not many of our interns are getting that full-time job. So particularly if it's a part-time job, and maybe they're working Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or maybe they're only working on the weekends, can they still come to Project Search during the week? Yes. Can they still gain skills? Yes. Right? So those are the things to think about. I would utilize this kind of presentation, you know, copy this right out of what Marilee sends you, and have this discussion at your steering committee.
I would harbor a guess that it'd be easier to get more people employed if they're employed prior to graduation or prior to leaving
100%.
the program, because
Absolutely.
you have everybody involved and it's kind of rolling. It becomes harder after they leave. So
Right.
I know from the survey, a lot of people said we just can't afford to have the students leave the program after they're employed, but just know that they don't have to leave the program if they get a job. You can still support them in Project Search and be employed.
Right. And it's actually a little easier, particularly if you're in the host business, right? So that they're having all the same support that they regularly would have anyway. You know, again, considerations, things to think about. All right, so this year's conference is going to be at the Albuquerque Convention Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico, July 15th through 19th. So our early bird registration starts February 1st, and here are the costs. So once again, Marilee is going to send out this whole presentation to you. You'll have those costs available to you. All of this information will be posted on the Project Search website starting February 1st. So not the member portal, but the Project Search website. We have our call for abstracts. Those will go out again February 1st, and they will close March 15th. So if you have something that you're doing that is exciting that you want to share with the rest of the country, please consider presenting and submitting an abstract. We have to fill about 80 presentation slots. So we love to get abstracts. So I think sometimes people think, oh, my idea is not good enough, or, oh, I don't know if I could fill an hour, or, well, you know, are we really doing something special? And let us make that decision, right? Just submit it. So, or if you feel like, wow, I'm not really like great at writing these kind of things, I'm on the abstract committee. I'm happy to help you. So please, you know, email me, send me something. I can edit it. I can look at it. I can talk to you about your ideas. I'm happy to do any of that. The other thing is that, so conference presentation is 1 hour in length. We usually say, you know, that's 45 minutes of content and then time for questions. But if you're like, wow, we do something pretty cool, but I don't think I could talk about it for an hour. Could you talk about it for 10 minutes? So we have what we call speed learning. So last year, if you went to the conference, we had a couple of sessions on speed learning where we had presenters at the four corners of the room. And the participants, the audience, circled around them. So they kind of rotated round robin to each corner and had a presentation for 10 minutes each. And so they got a lot of great information. We got the most feedback on that, the positive feedback on that we've had in a long time about any conference presentation. So this year, we're planning on doing a full day. So again, if you have some great idea that you want to share, and you think you could do it in 10 minutes, that will be an option on the abstract. So you select either conference presentation or speed learning session. And on a kind of personal note, I had to present every day last year, and I really don't want to do that again. So I would really love it if folks submit things. I want to be able to go to your presentations and support you. I want to hear from you guys. And so we don't want to always have to backfill with Project Search National folks. We want you to hear from your colleagues around the world. Right, so then there's the links to the registration, like I said. Those start, there are 3 hotels that will be hosting us this year. It's a good problem to have that we're getting so big, but it also means that we get spread out, right? So the DoubleTree is a 2-minute walk, the Clyde is a 3-minute walk, and then the Hilton Garden Inn is a 10-minute walk. I would just remember it's Albuquerque in July. 10-minute walk could be pretty sweaty. So if you have the ability to kind of get in there and get done early, I would do it. I think those things are going to fill up really fast. These are not the only hotels in the area, but these are the hotels that have the blocks at a reduced rate, right? So you're welcome to stay anywhere else. That's completely okay. I actually think somebody from New York reached out to me a little while ago and said, there's a KOA camp and my husband and I are going to stay in our camper. That's a really cool idea. So super, right? So if you can do that kind of stuff, have at it. You're welcome to stay wherever you like. These are just the places that are going to have the conference block and the hotels blocked off.
So,
The other
hey,
thing that
Molly,
I will mention, oh, go ahead, Marilee.
Christine just asked, will they be offering the certification training pre-conference this year?
We have pre-conference sessions. I'm not sure what certificate. Are you talking about CESP?
She doesn't have auditory. Hold on.
Okay.
Christine, can you? Yeah, she's talking about the CESP.
So we are reaching out to APSI again to see if they can send a proctor. So the person on staff that was our proctor and approved by them last year is no longer with us. She moved on. She's a special ed teacher at a local school. And so we don't have somebody who can proctor right now. So we are in collaboration with APSI right now.
Can you tell folks a little bit about what the CESP is?
I don't think I'm the person to say that. It is a certification that's available through APSI. It's to be a certified employment specialist. Some agencies like Access VR or OPWDD may require folks who are doing job development and employment services to have those services. So like in Pennsylvania, an employment specialist has to have that CESP to provide those services through VR. And so it's an option for people. It's not always a requirement for people, but we will have that we're going to try to have that certification available again. Is that answering the question? Okay, all right. The other thing I would say is flights are limited. So I already started to look at flights because I was hearing from other folks that flights were limited. Most flights are more than 6 hours. So that's a lot of travel time. So I just want to give people a heads up. So again, if you want to start looking for those flights, sometimes the earlier the better, especially if you wait a little too long, then you've got, God only knows where you're going to get sent to. And it does, I will say, be very careful. If you pull up like Kayak or however you search for flights, it looks like there's a lot of flights. But any American airline flight, particularly those going through Dallas, have less than 45 minutes layover. That's dangerous, right? So you might miss a flight, you might get stuck. I would be very cautious about looking at those flights from American Airlines. All right. Travel tips from Holly, right? So, okay. All right. So we have time, right, Marilee?
Yes.
Okay. Well, how about let's just stop here. Does anybody have any questions about any of those reminders? So the trainings, the conference, the abstracts, getting employment during the year. No. Doesn't look like it. Is there anybody typing? Okay. All right. So, program specialists from around the country kind of got together, and we get together frequently. So we have retreats about every 3 months or so. And before the conference last year, we had a meeting that said, what are the things that you're hearing from teams that seem to be holdovers from COVID? So we know that we gave a lot of people a lot of grace during COVID, and, programs were not necessarily abiding by all the model fidelity principles. But what we're seeing is that people are kind of sticking to those principles that maybe they did as COVID because it might be a little easier. They have new staff, so they don't know any other way. I think I hear that an awful lot, like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do it a different way. This is the way it was, right? So because we know we have such high turnover. And so we came up with the top 15 off-model moments. And so this is an effort to just kind of highlight some things that we know that teams aren't maybe doing up to snuff, and give a reminder and have some conversation around it. 15 takes about the whole hour. And so we're going to do 5 at a time. And so we'll do the next 5 at our next meeting. But these are the first top 15 that we're hearing from around the country. The other thing is, and I think you're going to notice this theme if you go to the Project Search conference this year, it's really about getting back to basics. So we've seen a lot of programs, again, kind of go off model, or I think Marilee and I have had this conversation, like we talk about the things that we have introduced maybe in the last 5 years that have worked, and we talk about them an awful lot, like skills assessment day and Voc Fit, but we kind of forget about the foundational skills that are part of Project Search. And so we really want folks to get back to those basics, and a lot of this really hits home to that as well. All right, so number 15, follow the model, right? It's proven to get the desired outcomes. there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. Use those resources that are in the member portal. And those resources are updated pretty frequently. The curriculum, we got a lot of feedback about the curriculum that came out in 2021. It's going through a redo, a rehaul. It's taking a little longer than anticipated to get published again, but it's coming, right? And so that's one thing to know, is that we absolutely listen and take your feedback into consideration. We are all about continuous improvement. So we want to make it more user-friendly for you. So those resources are there. Somebody paid for your license, right? So somebody paid the $18,000, the $16,000, the $12,000, whatever it was at the time the license was purchased, because they believed in the program. And then it is up to that license holder to make sure that all the partners are abiding by that license, right? And so, you know, incorporate this as part of your steering committee. Take a model fidelity component each meeting and talk about it. Like, are we doing this? If we're not, how can we get back to model? Does it have to be tomorrow that you turn back to model? No, but should you have a plan on how you're going to do it maybe better next year? Yes, that's what we would love to see. I'm your program specialist for the state of New York. I am here to help you, right? So yes, I'm in Pittsburgh, but I'm an email, I'm a phone call away. I love to Zoom with people. I'd started to think about maybe even doing like internship development and things like that virtually. Like, if you could take me along on an iPad and I could see things, I'm happy to do those types of things, right? So please reach out to us. We don't want folks to feel like they're unsupported, or they can't connect to us, or they can't get to us. I love that we have these meetings and we have them so frequently, and that you guys can see each other and share those ideas. But also, please, you know, send those questions my way. I'm looking at Lisa Cannon and her team. I probably get an email a month from them. And I love that. I love that they're willing to ask those questions. And I'm so grateful that I can get the information to them that they need, right? So please do that.
And Holly, they can find the model fidelity tool in in your web portal. So
Correct.
in
So the
essential documents tab.
yes. Yep. So if you go to toolkit, and then there's essential documents, and then it's general documents, and then you will see the model fidelity document. And then there's also the review tool. So you again can go through and review it. If you are a program that has started in the last 3 years, we would encourage you to do that at the end of this year, so that you could just walk through, again, give your team members, all your partners, an idea of what's expected, and have those discussions. You know, how can we get back to it? How do we get to it if we haven't been doing it, right? And I think sometimes like little details get missed. So yesterday I was on a Pennsylvania statewide meeting, and somebody said something about the tours as part of recruitment. And then somebody else said, well, wait a minute, what's the difference between an info session and a tour? And that's in model fidelity. We should be touring and having info sessions. And that was just a detail that was missed, right? So then there was big discussion about, oh, how do you do that? And what does that look like? And so that's great. Like, those are the things we want to see people doing and collaborating together and figuring that out together. All right, so externships. All right, so again, this was something that was happening a lot, that folks were kind of going outside of their host business, particularly if they were in healthcare during COVID. Project Search is okay with an externship if it is in the 3rd internship, and if it's going to lead to paid employment, right? So if you know there's an open position and this really looks like the best fit for this individual, and that 3rd internship can be like the job trial or a working interview for that individual, and it's a good fit, it's going to happen, super, right? We don't want all interns going out on 3rd internship. That's, again, kind of against the model. These are like the one-off things. And then one of the reasons it's a one-off is because it does take a lot of coordination, right? So you have to make sure that you have the staffing available for it. Can that person get to that place independently? Those would be those things to consider. So again, another kind of topic to have at your steering committee. At this time, can we support that? Does it make sense? You know, are you part of a larger organization where maybe this can happen because maybe there's a shuttle in between buildings or in between sister properties or things like that. So just think about that. We
Wendy,
really want to have externships being the exception, not the rule. But again, it's still something that's viable within Project Search.
Wendy, externships could be either like a external business. It could be a different business or the same business outside of your host site. Does that make sense?
Right. Right. So Wendy from Wegmans, is that who's talking? Yeah. So if you went to a different Wegmans, that would still be considered an externship, right? But if you went across the street to the CVS or whatever, that's an externship as well. All right. Our program length. Okay. So we are either 1 academic year if you are a high school program or 36 weeks in length if you're an adult program. Okay. No repeating just for fun. So again, in New York, we know that we have a new rule with folks staying till they're 22. So this might be something that we're seeing or that parents might be asking, you know, can my person stay? Staying is always an option, but it does have to be an IEP team decision. It does have to be in the best interest of that intern. Are they going to gain skills by staying? You know, all of those types of things absolutely have to be discussed. It shouldn't be a given, and it should not be something that happens often. It definitely, again, should be that exception. But we also know that probably all of us have had that intern that could have benefited from another year, right? Or, you know, was there something that happened that somebody got COVID or, you know, got sick and they couldn't be there for a full internship? Can that person come back and repeat an internship? Sure, they can, right? And so those are some of the things to think about when you're considering that. But again, 2 internships for completion. No repeating just because you can, right? Just because somebody could stay that extra year. So, you know, even if you have a 19-year-old who's come into the program and while you still have eligibility, nope. When you started Project Search, you agreed that you were going to go into employment, right? And so that employment is the goal of Project Search. We want to see people walking into that. But again, there is flexibility in that if need be.
Holly, can the data be counted twice?
No. So no, the data cannot be counted twice. And so that person would be withdrawn from the year and added to the repeat year. Does that make sense?
Just a quick question. If they did repeat the year, do they have to stay for the full 2 internships? Like say they just need some tweaking or refining for that goal. Is that something they would have to remain for that full year, especially if we're pulling data out from the previous year?
They do not have to stay for both internships, no.
Thank you.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Number 12, VocaFit is lit. So we know that people struggle with VocaFit. It is a required component of Project Search though. And what we hear from, again, sites from around the country is, oh yeah, I did it. And what they're referring to is that they completed the assessment on the intern or they completed the assessment on the internship. That does not fulfill the requirement. You need to enter the data into the VocaFit website and run those reports and use them. And so that is fulfilling the requirement. I think that utilizing that data to make informed decisions about internship placement as well as employment placements to show measurable skills gain. So there are a wide variety of reports that can be run in VocaFit. So it's not just a one-trick pony. I think a lot of times people just think there's just one thing to be done in there, and that's not true. So if you need a VocaFit help session, there are VocaFit help sessions scheduled monthly, and you can get individualized attention in those monthly VocaFit sessions through the member portal. You can also contact Dennis Cleary directly. He is happy to walk through, especially like with a full team, or especially with a team, again, who's had turnover and they're like, I don't even know how to get into it, right? Who's the administrator of my VocaFit portal? VocaFit is going through a rehaul. And so Dennis received a grant, and so they are working with new web developers because we do know that is not very intuitive. And that's another reason why folks aren't using it as much, is because it doesn't kind of make sense right off the bat, right? I will say, if anybody is willing to admit to me, you can send me an email, don't have to do it right now in front of everybody, that you don't love VocaFit, that you would like to see improvements. If you're willing to be part of a, oh gosh, what's it called? Totally blanking on the name.
Like a stakeholder group to give input on the tool.
Yeah. So if you're willing to be a part of a group, if you're willing to talk to the web developer and, you know, discuss your frustrations with VocaFit, email me. We are looking for those individuals right now so that we can get that feedback and help kind of steer the course in the right direction, so that we do have folks who use it a lot more. Okay. Skills Assessment Day. So Skills Assessment Day is required. It is not meant to weed people out. So that's one thing that we hear over and over again. And we hear that's why people don't do it, because they feel like they're in competition with their school rules, or that they're breaking some rules by doing a Skills Assessment Day. The purpose of Skills Assessment Day is for you to identify the supports that candidates might need if they are accepted into the program. So if you run Skills Assessment Day in March and you accept people in April, then you have May, June, July, August to plan for any of those expected accommodations or support that that person's going to need. So I'm going to say that I think one of the best tools that Project Search has is the step-by-step guide for the selection committee in the toolkit. It really does walk you through how to set up a great skills assessment day. And I think the other thing is it a lot of work? Yes. Does it have to be intensive? No. And so, you know, have 4 or 5 skill stations in a large room, have 2 people, one person who's giving the directions and kind of walking through and supporting the candidates as they do it. Have another person who's an observer who's writing out the rubric. Pick things that are important for your host business. So think about that. Think about the things that interns are going to do either a lot of, or it's really important for them to know. I have 2 examples from when I was leading programs in Pittsburgh. We needed our interns, one, to be able to handle money, because there were limits on debit cards. So you could only use a debit card if it was more than $5. And so if somebody wanted to buy a bottle of water, or somebody wanted some soda or chips, they needed to be able to handle cash. So we always had a money handling station where they had to identify bills and coins, and where they had to like select things. Like if I was going to buy a bottle of water and buy a bag of chips, how much money would you give me? And so we always had that station. We also had a station where folks had to get ready for work, and that incorporated a couple of different things. So they had to put on the hairnet, they had to tie an apron, they had to button a shirt, right? So that gave us some ideas of things that people might need help with. So tying, is not only an apron or your pants if you have to change to a sterile environment, but like garbage bags and different things like that. So, think about that and think about, how you might be able to incorporate that into a couple of different activities for your candidates to go through. It doesn't need to be time intensive either. So again, we used to do it round robin, 3 minutes at a station. If they didn't finish, it was okay. If they finished, it was great. Again, that observer was taking all that information in, and then all of that was conducted in the morning. We ate lunch together, and at the end of the day, we made those selections, right? So it's all in the same day. Don't take a break, don't leave. Make sure all of your selection committee, all of your partners have a stake in it. So you have somebody from education, you have somebody from your CRP, you have the instructor, you have the skills trainer, you have a VR person. If you have DD services, you have that person. Those folks are there, and your host business making that decision, right? So you have all those people. It should not lie on one person's shoulders to make those decisions. And it shouldn't necessarily just be up to the instructor or the school districts. Now, additionally, we are hearing from school districts that the fact that this is an application program is also a problem. And so it needs to be part of a service menu. And that's okay too. So that person comes through, they apply, they go through skills assessment day, they are offered the opportunity to come. They still have the ability to choose not to come or to come. So it's part of that menu of services that they are offered. But if they, if there are issues or things that maybe make them a poor candidate, that also can be discussed, right? So making sure that you have kind of that backup to say, here are the things we'd like to see this person work on, and maybe they can apply again. All right. Ooh. Yep. Those were the first 5.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Holly? We're going to give you back some time to your day. Isn't that exciting? Well, thank you very much for joining us. And this meeting has been recorded. I'll make sure I send it back out to you with some of the attachments and the PowerPoints as well. And I'll also send back a request for some video clips and things like that. So thank you for joining us. It was good to see you all, and hope you have a great weekend and a nice rest of your day. So thanks so much. Really appreciate your time. Thank you, Holly. Take care all.